10:30. We've got folks in other committees who'll be working their way here. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Chair Erickson will be here shortly. She's making a presentation over in Ways and Means, so as soon as she's finished, she'll join us. First on the agenda today, if you'll notice, we have an information briefing on moderate income housing, community service block grant program, and Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, and we have Ryan Vincent with us today. And Ryan, we will welcome you to the podium, and you may begin your presentation whenever you're ready.
Thanks so much, Vice Chair and members of the committee. Give me just a moment. I'm just going to pull up a...
So for the committee's information, we'll spend about 30 minutes this morning on the presentations, and then we'll have a hearing on our House Bill 2219.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Vincent. I'm Executive Director at I appreciate this opportunity to touch base on a number of our programs. I'm going to cover a lot of ground quickly, recognizing that some of you may not be very familiar with Kansas Housing itself. I'm going to give the 30,000-foot overview of our corporation. I'm going to talk about our programs with an emphasis on our community services block grant. Every year, the Federal Department of Health and Human Services requires that we have a hearing on the program. So I'm pleased to do that and welcome some of our community action partners here today as well. I'm also going to talk about moderate income housing, housing and COVID. We're going to talk about the housing needs assessment that you all have been hearing about a lot, and I believe may have come up in some discussions yesterday at your committee meeting, and then some next steps. So with that, as far as just an overview of KHRC itself, the work that we do, the people that we serve, KHRC used to be part of the Department of Commerce years ago, but we've been a freestanding statutory corporation for almost 20 years now. We administer a variety of community and housing programs, including the ones that you'll be hearing about today. Our mission is simple. We help Kansans access the safe, affordable housing they need and the dignity they deserve. We work with everyone from bankers to realtors to community action partners. We work with nonprofits and developers, community leaders, and everybody in between. If you live, breathe, do business in the state of Kansas, you're a stakeholder of Kansas Housing. Our programs are listed up on the board. They run the gamut from literally providing that roof that we all need during these cold months, providing funding for domestic violence shelters and emergency shelters. We provide tenant-based rental assistance, and we do actual housing development, which we'll touch on briefly. We have a successful down payment assistance program. We offer weatherization upgrades to income-eligible Kansans. We've got a healthy compliance department because we want to make sure that the housing we build through the programs is built well and serves those it's intended to serve. And lately, we've been doing a whole lot of emergency response, which is so important during this time of pandemic. I want to take a couple minutes and just talk about our Community Services Block Grant, or Csbg program, a program that started back in the 1960s and continues to be successful today. We work with a network of 8 community action agencies, some of whom are represented here today, wonderful network, that administer a variety of programs. And what's beautiful about the program is that it's responsive to local needs. Rather than us at the state telling local regions and communities what their needs are, they tell us. And those needs could be employment services, they could be income services, they could be housing, transportation, food services, and a variety of different eligible activities. I believe your packet contains some testimony from the Kansas Association of Community Action Programs, which is the association of community action agencies, with some more detail on that. The funding comes from the Department of Health and Human Services. What's great about the program itself is it's actually operating dollars, which is so hard for nonprofits to get. You know, if we're able to cover the cost of operations, then they're able to provide those direct essential services, which are so vital. We've got low-income Kansans that are being benefited through the efforts of our community action agencies around the state. On the board is the representation of the coverage. Every county in the state is covered by a community action agency. Contact information for those great organizations is on our website. You do have a fact sheet, I believe, in your packet as well on the CSBG program, so you can learn a little bit more. As far as a few numbers, though, I like to think of it as lives touched, because that's what it is. We've provided thousands of households housing and employment and education and asset building. We're leveraging $1 for every $8 in outside funding, which we know is so important for the federal investment. There are partnerships that are being allowed through these programs, not just with our office, not just with our housing partners, but with nonprofits and faith-based organizations, with school districts and employers. It's a wonderful network and program, and we're pleased to administer it on behalf of the state of Kansas. No, I flew through that, and I know that there's some representatives here that could answer specific questions, but just to make sure I'm honoring your time constraints, I'm going to move on to our housing development programs, because we know that if we're going to ultimately serve Kansas's housing needs, we need more housing units. We need more homes in our state. We're pleased to be able to administer a variety of different programs, from administering housing tax credits to home rental funds to the moderate income housing program, which I will touch on briefly. But I think sometimes a picture itself can speak so much more. Let me give you a couple of examples of the developments we're able to fund. This is the old historic Lee building in Salina, Kansas, downtown. Through our housing tax credit program, we were able to invest in a building that was inhabited by bats and rats. A historic structure where Lee Jeans started. You can still see the blue dye on the floor. This is history. This is something that is vital to our state. It's a story we want to tell at Kansas Housing. And through our investment, we were able to build this, revitalize this historic structure. We've been a part of the downtown revitalization in Salina. We've helped bring jobs to the community, and we've got a place for those jobs to go at night. This is Stony Brook Homes. It's a single-family set of properties in Norton and Hoxie and Scott City. These are communities that need housing so badly to be able to grow, and yet they simply do not have builders who are able to make the economics work. But through our programs and investment, these beautiful properties have been built. This is Solana Village in McPherson, Kansas, where we've been able to build housing for persons with disabilities. We know that there's so many important needs in different groups, from seniors to families, persons with disabilities, and everyone in between. So we're honored to be able to partner with the city, the community, to build these beautiful properties there. Unfortunately, our housing tax credit program can only serve people up to a certain income limit, and that's generally about, for a family of four, about $42,000, $44,000 a year. We all know that it takes a great deal more income to be able to pay the rent and to be able to cover the cost of homeownership in our state. And we know that as incomes have failed to keep pace with the cost of building, and the cost of building keeps going up, this gap is growing. But fortunately, we have a moderate income housing, or MIH, program that we administer that's funded by you all, the state legislature. We get $2 million a year, which is a wonderful ability to invest in our cities and counties in communities under 60,000 population. Unfortunately, those dollars simply do not go very far to meet the overwhelming need. Here's a map that shows the applications that we've received in the, I guess, going on 9 years now for the program. Here's the awards we've been able to make, and you'll see that there's counties that are covered and have received MIH grants that have not had new housing built in a great deal of time. The program is wonderful because it is responsive to local needs. We're able to provide infrastructure, we're able to fund actual housing development, we're able to do demo and revitalization and rehab and down payment assistance. We at the state aren't telling local communities what their needs are, it's vice versa. Even better, the program serves households up to 150% of area median income. These are our teachers, our police officers, our healthcare workers. These are the people that we need for our communities to be successful. You can see it goes up to a family of four, a household about $115,000 a year. But again, let me just show you a couple examples of what we're able to do through the program. Dodge City, we were able to build 14 moderate income housing units. I love this example, though, because we're not only building our housing of today, but we're building our workforce and our housers of tomorrow. We have partnered with Dodge City Community College trade students because we know that if we're going to have people that are going to be able to swing hammers in the years to come, we've got to be able to invest in them today and give them those training and that support that they need. So that's a great example of how we're able to leverage those different resources to address a couple needs. This is the historic YMCA building in Atchison, Kansas. Another example of how we were able to build and rehab beautiful housing, saving a historic structure that's important to their downtown revitalization. This is another moderate income development in Stafford County, St. John's. We were able to build a couple of units, I believe it was 4, in partnership with K-State architecture students. Energy efficient housing. So we're able to do some kind of seed funding, some pilot programs. We're able to see what works, what's successful, and hopefully replicate it around the state on a larger scale as we get more dollars available. So that is a very quick overview of our development programs, but I can't talk about housing in Kansas without talking about the pandemic. Since the pandemic has hit, we've seen a mass number of evictions and of people struggling, which has affected not only our renters, but our landlords, who have been stifled by eviction moratoriums. Through our resources, we've been able to address numerous needs of various stakeholders. We've launched additional funds in partnership with our community action agencies early on in the pandemic, which allowed us to start a Kansas eviction prevention program using $20 million in CARES Act funding in fall of 2020. That segued into a Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which can provide rent, utility, and internet assistance. We've got hundreds of millions of dollars available, and we're almost to $100 million out the door. Here's some statistics on that program itself. So far, we have kept over 15,000 Kansas households in their homes. That's over 40,000 Kansans that in the last year and a half have been at risk of losing their homes. We've been able to not only assist those households, but their landlords, who are mostly small businesses. Over 5,600 landlords have been assisted through this program. This week alone, I think we will be hitting the $100 million milestone for this program, which is a lot of money for a small organization, but it takes great partners like our community action agencies and like a number of stakeholder groups around the state. So we're pleased to offer that service for the state. But honestly, we've been putting out fires and responding to crises for a long time at Kansas Housing, whether it's the Greensburg tornado, whether it's Southeast Kansas flooding, whether it's the economic housing collapse 10 years ago, or now a pandemic. I think we're all in agreement that we need to address the underlying housing problem in our state. And the first step is understanding what that problem is. So this last year, we worked with the Office of Rural Prosperity and the Department of Commerce. We funded a statewide housing needs assessment. It involved over 71 listening sessions around the state. We had thousands of survey respondents. We had great conversations, and we scrubbed the census data, and we came up with a study that was released 2 months ago that has a substantial amount of information, both at the high level and at the regional level, which would be of interest to you all as you're working with your constituents and your communities. There were some major themes that quickly surfaced. Those were themes like expanding moderate income housing, which I talked about. But not only does that benefit moderate income households, but it frees up housing that is currently being competed for between moderate income housing and lower income households. When there's that competition going on, it's driving up the cost of housing for our low-income families just as much as our moderate-income families. So if we're able to free up moderate-income housing, if we're able to build new moderate-income housing, we're going to address that important need. Other big takeaways are that we need to preserve our affordable housing stock. We actually are losing more units of affordable housing in our state than we're gaining right now. We need to be able to diversify our housing. The days of single-family detached homes as the solution in every community is simply past us. Instead, we need to recognize that we have an aging populace, that we have people that may want less maintenance. We may need more rental housing in rural areas as well as our urban areas. So diversifying the products that are out there so that we're meeting your constituents' needs. Finally, we need to address that lack of building trade students going into the professions. And we know that we can't be able to be successful long-term without addressing that need today. There's great recommendations at the state level that we're in the process of working with the Department of Commerce and our office and partners to be able to implement. There's great information at the local level, and there's case studies so that our local communities have examples of what's been successful. So we're pleased to be able to offer that tool for our office and for you all at the state. Next steps for our office itself, we've talked about the moderate income housing program. I know the committee discussed this program briefly yesterday, and that there's some different bills at the legislature for consideration that would greatly expand this program. We're excited about that opportunity. It potentially could allow us to expand it to urban areas. It potentially could give us larger grant amounts. It potentially could allow us to do other things beyond just this little $2 million or 69 cents per Kansan per year that we currently fund in our state for housing. In addition, there's consideration of long-term seed funding for the State Housing Trust Fund administered by KHRC. There's ideas about county extension officers for housing and using workforce development programs for the building trades. But I think it's important that we talk about capacity today. KHRC has a number of applications sitting on our desks that if we had the funds, we could fund today. In 2021, we funded 9 out of 28 applications for our moderate income housing program. That's $2 million out of $8.7 million. In 2020, we funded 7 out of 24. Combine that, and right now we have $9 million that are ready for development today, that are pencil-ready developments, and if we had the resources, we could fund. We also estimate that with $20 million, we could build an approximately 590 moderate income housing units in your communities. And that's just our moderate income housing program. We have that tax credit program that I referred to. Again, last year, we had to deny 12 developments tax credits because we simply didn't have enough resources. That's 247 new construction units, 205 rehab units. We estimate that with $20 million, we could fund 4 additional developments that are pencil ready that we just need the dollars for. So I've thrown a lot of information at you. Depending on your time constraints, I'm happy to answer any questions. I do suggest just to help keep your communities and constituents informed that you sign up for our mailing list at this website. My contact information follows, and I would be happy to field any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. We do have some questions for you. Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You briefly mentioned something about using county extension offices. I assume K-State Research and Extension offices. Is that what you meant?
Senator, that would be the model that we would use. So that one of the housing study ideas was that there's great resources and people out there, and we've got to connect them. And especially for those smaller communities and rural areas that may not have a staff of people that have the time or expertise to be able to get familiar with everything. So one of those ideas is to have these ambassadors that can go around, these extension officers, and just help connect the resources, the tools, and the programs.
Thank you. I really like that idea. I interned with them, and I just think they do good work, and they're always adapting to the community's needs. And so I could see that being a really cool partnership. I don't know if there's anything we can do to help, but let me know. And then, Madam Chair, if I will, one more question. I have a good friend who's the Doniphan County economic development person, and she sent me this article. It says, "Would you take free land in rural America?" And it's this article about how it highlights a family that moved from California. Essentially, some of these houses that are just really run down, they're getting them for free, and then spending some money to fix them up, and how there's a lot of houses like that in rural settings. And then sometimes one of the biggest challenges is finding the people, maybe they have the money to redo them, but it's someone who's got to be willing to fix it up, or you've got to have the contractors or the individuals who know how to fix up a house. And so I guess I was just curious some of your comments on that article. She said it's been circling around a lot of her colleagues, and I found it to be interesting.
It's a great question, Senator, and it touches on so many important points that are highlighted in the housing study, particularly rural areas, but every area of the state is facing it. We have a high number of vacancies, which is a little bit contrary to when we have a lack of affordable housing, but we have an aging housing stock. 30% of our state's housing was built before 1960. We have communities in north central Kansas that have the average age of the housing was built in the 1930s. And we know that there's beautiful homes out there that are old, but they need a lot of investment, and they haven't been getting that investment. And it's even harder when there's nobody who can do the work. And rural communities are really struggling because they're competing with the same developers and contractors and builders that are going to do business in Johnson County, or they're going to do business in Oklahoma City or Denver because we live in a regional hub. It's simple economics. When these other states have resources they're putting into housing to be able to close that gap, they're able to attract the same people that we need to be building our homes. And until we at the state do something about that, it's a real challenge. And it brings up another interesting point, and that's that we would love any one-time investment to help close the gap. But what our developers and our contractors and our builders need is a commitment long-term, because they're making a business decision. And if they know that there's money now, but there's not going to be money tomorrow, then they're going to go to work in Denver and they're going to go to work in Oklahoma City. But if they know that there's a true commitment to fund housing in our state in 3 years and in 5 years and in 10 years, they're going to learn about our programs and our resources, and they're going to come get familiar with our community's needs, and they're going to build that housing that we so sorely need.
Thank you. Senator Dahl, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Ryan, it's been studied in that Hemp Creek, in 3D homes, you can build a home for a third of the price that's being built now. If we would pass legislation that would allow Hemp Creek, this is, I guess, a hypothetical question, would there be a desire to give tax credit for people using a Hemp Creek? Because I don't understand why we're not doing this at a huge scale when you can build a house for about $30,000, a moderate income house.
It's a great question, Senator, and we've got so many different types of innovative housing products out there, from 3D printed homes to tiny homes to just all different products that are being innovative, that are being done in various areas. And I think that's what's the beauty of the moderate income housing program and our developer network, is that we've got the people that are the experts. We're able to fund flexible housing purposes and activities. But we don't think we have the expertise at KHRC to be able to require or to be able to say particularly what type of housing should be built. We want to let the market meet those needs. But I do think it's important that we give the flexibility to the market so that we're considering investment in some of those more innovative tools, because whether it's modular products, whether it's just some of the specific product that you talk about, I do think that there's ways of bringing the ultimate building costs down, but making sure that it's replicable on a larger scale.
Sure.
So have your studies shown the same as what I've been reading, that you can build a home for a third of the cost with Hemp Creek versus concrete?
Senator, I don't know if we've actually delved into that level of research, but I will say that we work closely with the Kansas Housing Association, which is our network of affordable housing developers in the state. They very much are into looking at the different proposals and ideas for products that are out there, and it's certainly something that we can bring to their attention.
Thank you, Ryan. Committee, our chair is here now, but if we have any more questions, Senator O'Shea, one more question, then we'll be closing this shortly.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Great job, by the way. I was just looking through my packet for your email again. I know you showed it on the screen and I'm not seeing it. Do you mind sharing that again, either on the screen or just out loud? Or your business card, whatever. Thank you.
It's rvincent@ks.housingcorp.org. I do have, there should be cards in your packet, but if not, I've got them available for after the committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I will turn this meeting over to our chair, Senator Erickson. Thank you, Ryan. You did a great job. I really appreciate it. Great information.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to my vice chair for covering while I was providing information in another committee. So next order of business is we have a hearing on HB 2219, enacting the Kansas Targeted Employment Act to provide tax credits for the employment of persons with developmental disabilities. We will open the hearing with a staff briefing. Charles?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 2219 comes to you from the other chamber. It was heard and passed out actually 1 year ago in the House Committee on Commerce and was passed by the House, I think 173 to 1. It provides a tax credit for tax years 2021 through 2026 against the Kansas income tax, the privilege tax imposed on financial institutions, or the premiums tax imposed on insurance companies for businesses authorized to do business in Kansas who employ eligible employees with developmental disabilities in a competitive integrated setting, and that's a key word, or for taxpayers who outsource work to such businesses. Competitive integrated setting is defined in federal law, and it means work paid at the customary rate for individuals who do not have disabilities, not less than minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, where the employee is eligible for benefits to the same extent as other employees without disabilities, works at a location where the employee interacts with other employees who do not have disabilities to the same extent and the same manner as other employees who do not have disabilities, and has similar opportunities for advancement as other employees who do not have disabilities. So the concept is a standard work environment, and the individual, the employee with developmental disabilities, is working in a standard manner with other employees who are not developmentally disabled. The eligible employees under the program, that is the employees that the employer may take a tax credit for, and we'll get to the tax credit in a moment, must be documented by the Secretary for Aging and Disability Services as having a developmental disability. They must agree to provide the Secretary with tax, wage, and other information, or agree to permit the Secretary of Revenue to provide that information to the Secretary for Aging and Disability Services. And that is because the Secretary for Aging and Disability Services is directed in the bill to analyze and assess the program and provide reports to the Commerce Committees of the House and Senate. High school students may be employees under the program as well. If an employee receives support services from a community service provider, the employee may receive support or services at the worksite as needed to assist the employee to maintain employment. Community service provider includes an organization that serves persons with a disability, but it also, and is licensed by the Kansas Department for Aging and Disability Services, but it also includes high school districts, community mental health centers, vocational rehabilitation contractors, so other entities that support persons with disabilities. The tax credit for employers is found at Section 3 of the bill. Again, this is for tax years 2021 through 2026, and of course the bill was from last year, so the 2021 would include this tax year, of course. The tax credit for participating employers, and again, or for taxpayers who outsource work to employers participating in the program, is 50% of the wages paid to eligible employees on an hourly basis during a calendar year, up to a maximum credit of $7.50 per hour. This credit is based only on wages for hours worked, not for compensation for leave. The wage rate used to calculate the tax credit may not be greater than the typical rate for the job. The credit is not refundable. It may not be carried forward. Employers must provide the Secretary of Revenue with information about the eligible employee for which they are claiming the credit, including the name, wage rate, hours worked, gross wages paid, less any compensation paid for leave. The maximum amount of all tax credits allowed in a tax year under this program is $5 million. Section 5 discusses the analysis and reports to the Legislature by the Secretary of Aging and Disability Services that must be performed under the bill. The Secretary is directed to develop and implement a program to measure the results, and that includes decreases in reliance on state subsidies by the eligible employees, associated net savings to taxpayers, effects of employers being able to keep the tax dollars that would otherwise have been paid to the state, the effect of the credit, and any benefit or detriments to the quality of life and standard of living for eligible employees. I just note that with respect to the information, again, both employers and employees, as a requirement for participating in this act, have to agree to provide tax information, wage information, and other information that enables the Secretary of Aging and Disability Services to conduct its analysis. But there is a provision that all information pertaining to an eligible employee or an employer must be provided in a manner that maintains the confidentiality of the eligible employees and employers and with respect to tax information. As noted, the Secretary for Aging and Disability Services is to submit a written report to the Senate and House Commerce Committees. And again, because this bill was drafted last year, it's at the beginning of 2022 through 2026, so the bill will need some technical amendments if the committee decides to pass it out. The bill grants rule and regulation authority to the Secretary of Revenue and the Secretary for Aging and Disability Services. There is a sunset provision. The provisions of the bill expire on January 1st, 2027. I noted a little bit about the history of the bill. So that's what the bill does. Time for questions.
Thank you, Charles. Any questions for Charles? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is not for Charles, and I'm a little known secret up here. I'm all about saving taxpayer money, but if need be, I'm willing to pay for a copy of the bill myself since I didn't get one prior to committee meeting. It's not in there.
We're keeping you on a very tight budget here, Senator Peck. Did you get one?
Now they're coming at me from all directions.
My apologies, Senator Peck. Any other questions for our revisor? Seeing none, thank you so much, Charles. We will move on to our proponent testimony, and we do have 11 in-person or on Webex oral testimonies today. So we are going to, for the sake of time, my apologies, we are going to have to limit everyone to 3 minutes. I will give you a signal when you have 1 minute left, and please know that this is in no way trying to limit what you have to say, but we do want to hear from everyone who is here today to speak to this issue. So with that, we will start with Rachel Newman, Director of Operations, COF Training Services. Welcome to committee, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Commerce Committee, for your consideration of House Bill 2219. As stated, I'm the Director of Operations at COF. We provide services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The Kansas Targeted Employment Act is intended to increase employment opportunities for Kansans who are reliant on government subsidies. In its current form, it specifically aims to promote employment opportunities for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Eventually, we feel that it could support a larger group of individuals, including individuals with a wide range of disabilities as well as mental health disorders. So there's 3 major problems in Kansas today that this act can help address. The first is tax subsidy reliance. So over or heavy reliance on Medicaid or other forms of government subsidies has become unsustainable in Kansas. This unsustainability is clear when you consider the 4,000 Kansans with intellectual disabilities waiting for Medicaid-funded services to meet their most basic needs. These individuals are waiting for up to 10 years for those Medicaid-funded services. The second challenge is limited opportunity. Many individuals who experience disabilities have very limited opportunities for employment provided to them, despite the willingness and desire to work. And the third is a buzzword, workforce needs. Alongside this decrease in opportunities for individuals with disabilities in Kansas, there's an increased need for more workers and a stronger workforce. The lack of workforce in Kansas has led Kansas employers to outsource their work to other states and even other countries. If you'll refer to my written testimony, there's a visual example of how the Kansas Targeted Employment Act works. It aims to address these issues by incentivizing employers to target their employment efforts towards this underemployed population that will help decrease their reliance on these government subsidy programs. As individuals who are tax subsidy reliant increase their earned income, there's a decreased reliance on these tax subsidy programs. Sorry, for sake of time, I'm going to skip down. So most people have heard the phrase, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. There are so many Kansans that are begging for the opportunity to learn to fish while just being given fish. People who want employment need employers who are willing to employ them. You're going to have the opportunity today to hear from some wonderful individuals that can speak on how important work is for this population. One of those individuals is my sister, and I want to take just a second to toot her horn a little bit. I watched the physical and mental health struggles she experienced being unemployed for 3 years after high school, as well as being unemployed for a duration during the pandemic. She now has had the opportunity of employment provided to her, and it has been tremendous seeing how much she has grown. She calls me every single day at the beginning of the day to say, "Hi, Ray Ray, I'm so excited for work today." And she calls me at the end of every single shift to tell me what was the best part of her day, and oftentimes that's cleaning the bathrooms. So as an employer myself and a supervisor, I know that this passion for work is not widely known in our workforce, and I'm so sorry for employers that have not had the opportunity to employ someone like Samantha. I really hope you consider this to incentivize employers to tap into that population.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And committee, we will hold questions until all of the conferees have had a chance to testify. So if you can stick around, I'd appreciate it. Next, we have Samantha Snow. Samantha, welcome to committee.
Okay. My name is Samantha Snow, and I support 2219 House Bill. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome in 2nd grade. I received special education services in school and graduated high school. I did an internship with Project Search, but after the internship, I was not successful at getting a job for 3 years. I struggled with depression and a lack of purpose. I didn't have much to look forward to and couldn't pay my bills. I had to rely on my parents for everything. In 2017, I got hired at a hotel Residence Inn. I loved my manager, Angela. She was so nice and helped me a lot with learning my job. I met a lot of friends and felt included with all my coworkers. I worked there for almost 3 years. I was able to buy things for myself and pay my own bills, which made me feel really good. I got laid off when COVID hit, like a lot of my coworkers, and went back to being unemployed. I moved to Kansas with my sister, who works at COF. I wanted an opportunity to work in the community, and this year I was hired at Thriftopia. I now make minimum wage at Thriftopia. Working at Thriftopia, I feel good about myself. I'm treated well and respected by everyone I work with. I really like my boss, Craig, and I want to make him proud of me. I love working with people, and I love every part of my job, including cleaning the bathrooms. Since moving to Kansas and having both of these jobs, I am able to pay my own bills on my own. I have learned how to coordinate my own transportation, manage my paycheck, and get around town riding my bike. I'm able to purchase things on my own at the store. I'm still on the waiting list for services in Kansas. But because of my support and my job, I am doing well. I'm also learning a lot. I want everyone with disabilities in Kansas to have the opportunity to work and learn like I have. Please pass HB 2219 to increase work opportunities for people like me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for being here and for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Next, we have Craig Evans, President, Integrated Employment Enterprises, and I believe he's joining us on Webex. Are you there,
Yes.
Craig?
Quick audio check. Can you guys hear me?
We sure can. Thank you.
Okay. Distinguished members of the committee, thank you so much. Appreciated your comments earlier. We know that this is a time crunch. This is a rescheduled session, and we are grateful. Samantha, excellent job. That was amazing. As mentioned, my name is Craig Evans, and I have the distinct privilege of residing over a company called Integrated Employment Enterprises. We are a Kansas-based company that provides labor solution to Kansas-based companies. We find ourselves in a rural location. So basically, the targeted goal and creativity of IEE is to capitalize on rural parts of Kansas and to capitalize on that other untapped labor force, that being persons with disabilities. So what we do is we work with Kansas companies in the metropolitan areas that are fighting over employees that basically play round robin from employer to employer. And we try to provide permanent services for them. A lot of common characteristics within rural Kansas areas and persons with disabilities is a deprivation in transportation. The IEE model addresses that by transporting the product, not the people. So unlike other temp services, we don't drop people into places of business. We partner with them, we learn from them, we pick up their materials, build that within our rural-based work sites with our select audience of employees, and then we return it to their liking. I will note that IEE, with all of our manufacturing customers, has the highest quality assurance rating, which is quite impressive. I also had the privilege of working with local employers that are just needing their own employees, Samantha being one of those. I get to go and I get to advocate for some of these individuals that are highly motivated to work.
1 minute, please, Craig.
Yep. Unfortunately, the challenge there is making sure the employee can be profitable, and asking a person with IDD to be as productive as someone without is just simply inappropriate. In our vocational program, we do teach and reinforce these soft skills. You show up for work, you do your assigned tasks, you respect your employer, you get along with your coworkers. What we can't teach is how to produce faster. That comes down to creativity and accommodation from the employer. I believe that House Bill 2219 provides enough of a motivation and incentive that encourages employers to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. If you would be able to stay on for any questions after all conferees, we'd appreciate it. Next, we have Brent Holland on Webex. Brent, are you there?
Yes. My name is Mary Holland, and my son Brent is a 50-year-old man with high-functioning autism. Currently, Brent works in a vocational training program to assist him with his high anxiety. Brent requires a significant amount of structure in his day and needs constant redirecting to keep him on task. Brent can become anxious when there are unavoidable changes in his work schedules. He looks forward to going to work every day, but struggles with his anxiety on days that he does not work due to lack of structure. Brent would need an employer to be understanding and willing to provide additional accommodations due to his high-level anxiety and off-task behavior. I support House Bill 2219 because it supports our son and the thousands of people like him.
Thank you so much, Mary, for your testimony today. Next, we have Sheila Brines and Roxy on Webex. Sheila and Roxy, are you there?
Yes, we're there.
Okay, we can hear you. Please proceed.
My name is Roxy, and I'm the mother of Sheila Brines. Sheila is deafblind. Sheila's had several jobs over the years, but most of her work has come from sheltered workshops. Sheila's also enjoyed going to work and likes being on a set schedule. When her schedule would change, she would lose her job unexpectedly. It would affect her behavior. Sheila needs to be able to work on a consistent schedule and in a consistent environment so that she can learn it and make her way through it safely. Sorry. Typically, Sheila likes to work anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a week, 3 to 5 days a week. She has always been praised for being on task and focused on her job. She needs to be able to do the same thing for a while before she is moved to something different. It takes her some time to learn the new task with her hands, but once she learns it, she is very proficient. So we support House Bill 2219 because it allows Sheila to work in a safe setting on projects that she can be successful with. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxy and Sheila. Next, we have Stacy Chandler. Stacy, welcome to the committee.
Thank you. My name is Stacy Chandler, and I live in Ottawa, Kansas. I have several jobs in the community with the help of CF training services and vocal rehabilitation. I was working at Whitney's for more than 2 years, but they cut my hours back to 5 hours per week. I enjoyed working at Whitney's because I talked to the people while cleaning the lobby. I was able to make enough money there, so I had to go back to the shelter workshop. I have worked at the sale shelter workshop and for 4 years. I work about 20 per hour a week. I support HB 2219 because I want to work more hours per week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stacy. Next, we have Julie Thorough on WebEx. Julie, welcome to committee.
Hi, thank you. My name is Julie Thorough, and I have 2 children that require assistance at work. Brandy is my 27-year-old who has a learning disability. Brandy loves going to work and being part of the team, but she needs extra assistance and no longer amounts of time to learn and relearn tasks. She wants to do well and please those around her, but she can forget certain steps and can easily be drawn to tasks. With the right job, she would be given only a few tasks and would be able to master and be responsible for. Brandy would benefit from an employee modify her job description to meet needs. HB 2019 Kansas employment is along this way. I also have Zach. He is my 30-year-old son with autism. He is very smart, but has limited verbal language, a lot of sensory sensitivity. He has a hard time coping with loud noises and too much going on in this environment. Zach can complete simple tasks, but will do them at his own pace. Zach would need a lot of direct support in the job. I think that Zach could be successful if he worked in a place that specializes in assisting people with his type of needs. Zach is only 30 years old, and I would like to see him get some work experience and learn to make this part of his day, that part of his day being 222 provides assistance with local experts that would be able to assist that in this place of employment. I support 222-19 because it supports my son and daughter and thousands of people like them. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for your testimony. Next, we have Nick Wood, Associate Director of InterHab. Welcome to committee, Nick.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I want to keep my testimony short, so I'm just going to highlight a few things. This bill is really about development of best practices for employers. I think you heard that in Craig Evans' testimony. And if you read his written testimony, he's got a good description of their model. States that are successful at getting people with disabilities employed use strategies like this to develop best practices. In Kansas, I don't think we talk about employment of people with disabilities enough over the years. We got some notoriety nationally for passing the Employment First bill, but that's been 10, 11 years ago. It is normal for states that are exceeding, doing well in this area to use programs like this to try to develop best practices. In national studies, employers respond to surveys saying that the things that are keeping them from hiring people with disabilities is just a lack of understanding of the scope of the talent that's available, lack of understanding of the potential benefits to hiring people with disabilities, and then misconceptions about the cost versus the return on investment of disability inclusion. For the general workforce, these same studies, or a lot of these studies, show that there is a reported improvement in productivity, even for the workforce that does not have a disability. Employers report an enhanced community reputation and a positive impact from having a workforce that is more representative of the community at large. There's obviously a lot of people out there who have disabilities. They're consumers themselves, and they use these services for these businesses. And people like seeing people like them and who understand them with the businesses that they work with. I just want to say a little bit about why initiatives like this are important. The disability community is very diverse in general. It's as diverse as the rest of the community, of course. But when it comes to level of disability, there's a wide range. So by prevalence estimates, we would say that there's probably about at a minimum, 29,000 people in Kansas who have an intellectual or developmental disability. As you know, if you've been following the waiver discussions, we only serve about 9,100 on our waiver. So there's a lot of folks out there who really, they need support and they need jobs. 85% of the total population are people with a mild form of intellectual disability. 10% are moderate, and only 5% are severe or profound. So those severe and profound folks are sort of overrepresented amongst the folks that we're already serving. And what that means is we're just not serving a lot of people with IDD out there. They would like the support, they would like to be included, and they would like employment. And this bill will help us get there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Your testimony was so riveting, I forgot to give you a 1-minute warning, so my apologies, but thank you. Thank you for wrapping that up. Next, we have Stephanie Rasmussen, Vice President of Long-Term Services and Supports for Sunflower Health Plan. Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity this morning to testify in support of House Bill 2219. I'm Stephanie Rasmussen. I'm the Vice President of Long-Term Supports and Services for Sunflower Health Plan. As you know, Sunflower Health Plan is one of the 3 Medicaid managed care organizations in Kansas. We have been since the inception of CanCare in January of 2013. As you recall, individuals with IDD and the full complement of their services were included in CanCare in February of 2014. We currently have 53% of the state's individuals with IDD in our health plan who have chosen Sunflower Health Plan to be their Medicaid managed care organization. We take this responsibility very seriously, and therefore we engage in several initiatives each year that we help will improve the independence, integration, quality of life, and health outcomes, with employment being a very key area of focus for this population. For the past 6 years, we have provided management for Kansas Project Search for all individuals in Kansas with IDD who participate in that program. The program provides opportunities for high school students and adults with IDD to engage in internships with the goal of successful placement and competitive employment. It currently has a 75% success rate of individuals achieving competitive employment upon completion of the program. Through this program, and along with our other initiatives, such as volunteering for disability mentoring days, we have learned that unfortunately, there are some businesses, and it's fairly common, that have fears that employing a person with disabilities is going to cause them to have additional work for themselves, for their other employees, or to incur unwarranted expenses for a reasonable accommodation, for example. Our direct experience with hiring individuals with IDD indicates very much what you heard from Samantha this morning. They are passionate about their jobs. They are very dedicated, reliable, and very valued members of our workforce. We attempt to share this experience with other businesses. And I'll wrap up by saying I've listed some of the initiatives that we've set for 2022 for working with our members and our providers on increasing competitive employment for individuals with IDD. We believe House Bill 2219 complements our efforts by reinforcing businesses to learn the same value that we've experienced through employment of this population. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much for being here, Stephanie. Next, we have Sarah Hartweir, Senior Advisor, Inclusion Connection on Webex. Sarah, are you there?
I am. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Hartweir. I am a Senior Advisor to Inclusion Connections, a Kansas-based nonprofit with a mission of strengthening the lives of individuals with disabilities by creating inclusive opportunities for community involvement, access to meaningful employment, and better options for supported living. We are pleased, Inclusion Connections is pleased to support this bill, Kansas House Bill 2219, as the bill would provide tax credits for the employment of individuals with developmental disabilities throughout the state of Kansas. Inclusion Connections was founded in 2013. It's a year-round program that serves over 343 unique students with disabilities throughout Johnson County and offers an impressive array of educational programs designed for individuals with disabilities, which include healthy living classes, creatability camps, workshops for our self-advocates, families, and caregivers. The cornerstone of our programming is employability, which includes our Pauseabilities program. Pauseabilities is an employment training center that offers career preparation and job placement into meaningful employment in the Kansas City community. Each day, we work to transition our students into competitive careers within our Kansas City community at workplaces like FedEx, Hy-Vee, Mid-American Nazarene University, Panera, and others. As many of you know, and others have touched on this today, 85% of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities are not only unemployed, but living in poverty here in Kansas. To meet this need, many organizations similar to Inclusion Connections facilitate the employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities, giving them guidance to pre-employment, job skills, and usually that's when it stops. We're pleased to support this piece of legislation as it really does take a step in the right direction to integrate employers from Main Street to Wall Street and everywhere in between here in the great state of Kansas. Thank you for your time and thank you for allowing us to provide this testimony.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Next, we have Mike Burgess, Director of Policy and Outreach, Disability Rights Center of Kansas. Welcome to the committee, Mike.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As the chair said, I'm Mike Burgess with the Disability Rights Center of Kansas, and I know you've heard a lot of great testimony so far, so won't refer to my written testimony. I know you can do that later. Just wanted to hit a few of the high notes too. So we were part of the group that worked with Craig and Rachel and Matt and Nick at Interhab, and they were phenomenal partners as we took kind of what was an idea and got it, worked with the committee member on the House, or committee members on the House side too, to get this to this work product. And there are a number of really good things in the bill, along with some important safeguards that you as policymakers can look to provide protections to make sure that it does what it's intended to. So some of the good things is it has a good definition of competitive integrated employment. We want to make sure that individuals with disabilities are able to work in the community in an integrated setting. We want to make sure that they're, to take advantage of this program, that employers are paying a competitive wage, and that has to be at least minimum wage, but it also has to be competitive with what other individuals would make doing a similar type of work. One of the neat benefits about this too is it's a 50% tax credit, so it doesn't create a wage ceiling either, or it does, but it's a high up wage ceiling. It's not locking someone in at minimum wage. That 50% tax credit allows an employer, if the employee is doing a great job, they can, just like they would other employees, provide, it creates an incentive to provide raises and to increase their wages, thus improving that individual's ability to be more independent with it. So that's another great opportunity or great piece of this. It has a $5 million cap, so it limits the state's exposure. It includes a KDAD study, because I think part of this is it's a pilot program, is how I would like to think about it, that in 5 years, this proves how well it works. It'd be a great opportunity to expand it, and then as such, it has that sunset in there. And I think, as the revisor had said, there are some technical amendments, because obviously it was drafted last year, intended to be a 5-year program to get up and running, so some of those dates would need to be adjusted. One of the things nationally, they talk about the best indicator of future employment is current employment, current or previous employment. So individuals, this will provide an opportunity for individuals with disabilities to get a job. Because like many of us, I learned through my first several jobs what I didn't want to do. And I'm sure a number of folks did that. And so, it's a natural thing. You have to get that first job before you can get the second, third, and fourth and help figure out what you want to do. This will help provide those opportunities. We know that individuals who are employed have better health outcomes. And as I said, it's going to help pay for itself or offset the costs, because people who are employed and have other income tend to have fewer needs on the other end. So it's a great investment. And again, with this, you're only paying for successful outcomes, right? It's a tax credit for wages paid. And so just kind of, I think that's kind of took me a little while to wrap my head around that. Unlike a number of other great programs, with this one, you're only paying for what you for successful outcomes. And then it will also complement the STEPS program, which I'm not sure if Nancy Scott is set up to testify also, but that's a great program. I encourage you to learn more about it. It just started July 1 of this year. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you so much, Mike. And committee, that concludes our proponent testimony. So with that, are there questions for any of the conferees? Senator Ware.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. When at first glance, I have to say that this bill concerned me because I thought it was going to be like one that we'd seen a few years ago. But I was thrilled to find, as I'm looking through it, that it does require minimum wage, that we're not talking about sub-minimum wage, which frankly is just a disrespectful thing to give the folks who can work at this level that we're talking about today. And I'm so pleased that we are focusing on the folks that can develop into working in a more typical job setting, not in a sheltered workshop. I'm having worked through my concerns, I'm very much in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Senator Dahl.
I just want to thank Samantha. I'm proud of you. You did a great job, and getting to know you or to hear you speak is an honor to me.
Any others? I would very much concur with those comments, Senator Dahl. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, committee, I will draw your attention to written only in support of this bill. Mary Gifford, Derek Dotson, Scott Mays, Quality Control Officer, COF Training Services, Shelley May, Deputy Director of Johnson County Developmental Supports, Martha Gabehart, Executive Director, Kansas Commission on Disability Concerns, Jeff Schroeder, Public Policy Coordinator, Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities, and Kevin Walker, Senior Vice President, Public Policy Overland Park Chamber. Committee, there were no neutrals or no opponents to this bill. So seeing no other business, committee, we are adjourned.